In the 70s, 80s, I remember it totally wasn't okay to write tonal music. And I remember being turned down for a university place and being told that they would not take a composer who finished a piece in A minor, and it was sort of with a bit of a laugh, you know. And so it wasn't okay to write like that. And so I never studied composition. I never got in anywhere because I was so unfashionable. And in a way it was the American music, the beginning of minimalism, also Bernstein and the meeting of jazz and popular music, of music theatre with classical music. And that was all beginning to happen in America. And it was beginning to come over here, and it then was totally okay to repeat yourself, you know, 100 times in a piece and write a piece of minimal music which everyone could get. They could hear what was going on. Suddenly it felt to me as if everything was up for grabs. And I think that moment of realization happened when I wrote Opus California. I was commissioned by the Brodsky Quartet to write one of 6 pieces related to the Beethoven Opus 18 set of quartets. And I chose number 4 because the first movement of that was one of the first pieces of chamber music I ever played as a child. And I actually drafted a piece based on that first movement. But in the meantime, I was working in California in the Cabrillo Festival, and I suddenly thought, no, I want to do something different. I want something that relates to this very immediate approach that these American composers have, and the way the audience responds. I mean, they were on their feet at the end of a piece of contemporary classical music, and with tears streaming down their faces, and you know, it was just like such an immediate connection. And I thought, I wonder if I could do something for this commission with this Beethoven piece. The first movement is called Boardwalk, and I remember being in Santa Cruz, and there was a boardwalk, which was a concept I hadn't come across before. So there's this wonderful walkway going out into the sea, and the characters that were walking towards me as I walked out, you know, wonderful costumes and just strutting their stuff, really. These, it was just fantastic, and it suggested jazz to me. It suggested jazz and improvisation and freedom, really. So I took the Beethoven, the sequence of chords from the first tune in the Beethoven, and realized that they absolutely could be interpreted as jazz chords, and that's what I did. And so this movement is very kind of it's relaxed, it's loose, it's fun. The second movement was inspired by seeing the Golden Gate Bridge as I left San Francisco at the end of the festival in the mist, in the early morning mist, and it was absolutely stunning, and that immediately suggested music to me. I've taken what's called the bridge passage between the first 2 melodies of the Beethoven movement. So I think that's nice that it's a bridge, and it was a bridge. And I've stretched it right out so that you just hear each note layering up against the one before, and they're all left there. So you get these layers of sound and harmony. And I was amazed at what emerged, really, when I sort of played this game with the Beethoven notes. And I think it does have a sort of reminiscence of perhaps Copland, or to me it sounds very American. And then the third movement, the lullaby idea, sort of lilting idea, which is there in the Beethoven. You can hear that theme very clearly from the second subject of the Beethoven, the second melody. You can hear the same melody going on, but with 2 violins playing in harmony together, and There's very much a sort of lilting lullaby feel to that movement. It's called Dreams Before Lullabies because I met an American composer who he'd got his parents and his wife's parents together for a celebration that they decided to try for a baby. And I just thought, wow, that is so open, you know, that's so, I don't know, it was a wonderful, warm occasion. Then the last movement is inspired by the natural bridges beach on the Californian coast, which has these incredible rock formations which are like bridges. And I think one of them has collapsed since I was there. There were 3 bridges and now there are 2. And for that I took another joining passage from the Beethoven and took the notes from that and built it into a movement. And that was also very much inspired by this kind of driving, poppy kind of way of writing for orchestra that I was very taken with, and I wanted to sort of recreate that feeling, that very exciting, sort of almost relentless moto perpetuo kind of feeling in the last movement, with virtuosic passages for the first violin in particular. Opus California was very much written about communication with the audience, and that was what I wanted to do. That was the thing, that was the kind of missing link that it hadn't kind of clicked in my brain, that this is the most important thing, is the end user, you know, the composer to the players to the audience. I think I was still quite self-conscious about the contemporary music police, you know, the critics, and you know, that I had to be following a certain kind of complexity. I mustn't be too obvious. I think I was self-conscious. I needed to know where each note had come from. I worked a lot with note squares, and I think because I have a kind of natural tonality and communication, I think some of my more complex works I think most of them do come over to an audience, but I think Opus California was the beginning of seeing it slightly differently. I hope that audiences will feel that from the music, that they'll really feel that the music is speaking to them and that they're getting something emotionally from it as well.